Hey, welcome back, parents. Listen, today we have a return guest on our show, back by popular demand. And the reason that we asked him back is because we had such a great discussion last time he was on the show, but we just didn't get time to dive into another topic that you all have been asking about, which is how in the world, as busy parents, can we prioritize our faith and nurture a personal relationship with Jesus? Because let's face it, most of us parents are running at the speed of light. We're dealing with diapers, dinner, dishes. We are the Uber driver for our teens. Like, it never stops. And it can really feel impossible to make time for our own personal needs as parents. And that even includes nurturing our souls through prayer and reflection. So I am very happy to welcome back Father Nathan Cromly.
Thank you so much, Jordan. Glad to be here.
Father Nathan is a Catholic priest. He's an author and he's the president of the St. John Institute in Denver, Colorado. He's got a great passion for leadership. He's also a speaker, writer, retreat leader, and fellow podcaster. Father, last time you were on our show, you gave a great talk, very practical, about what we parents can do to positively influence our kids while they're at home before they leave the nest so that they will keep their faith when they become adults and are on their own. And I've got to tell you, so many people were delighted to hear that your recommendations were like way more practical than they imagined coming from a priest. So you're going to knock it out of the park today again and give us some practical ideas of just how to prioritize our faith as busy parents. So, parents, if you have not listened to that episode already, please do so. If you're a grandparent listening to this, please listen. It was episode number 114. And again, it was called How to Positively Influence Your Kids so that they will keep their faith when they leave home. You can also just do a search for Nathan Cromly, Father Nathan, on our website, and it'll pop right up for you. Okay, let's get into this, Father, because I just finished this book that you wrote. And I know some of you parents listening are like, Jordan, that's so sweet. You read a book. I don't have time. I have a stack on my nightstand and have never gotten to them because I'm busy. It will be different. And this is a pretty small book and a very practical and easy read. So if you're watching on YouTube, here's the book. Coached by Paul the Apostle. I'm holding it up. Has a beautiful hand-drawn photo of St. Paul on the front, and it's just such an awesome book. What I found in it for parents is there's these points to consider regarding leading our kids and making decisions when we have no idea if it's the right decision or not. And then also the fact that you weave in there that like there's going to be trouble in your life. And the trouble isn't the trouble, but the trouble is having trouble with having trouble, right?
Oh, you are a good reader, Jordan.
I'm telling you, that point just was driven home in such a sweet way because it's true. We suffer as parents, we suffer as married couples, and the boat's always rocking. But if you expect it and accept it, your life is so much different. So this book is just chock full of great things. And like I said, a practical read for parents, even if you have young kids, to relate to. So I just thought, Father, maybe we could break up the talk into like three little sections. First, I want you to tell us why you wrote a book about St. Paul the Apostle and how we parents can relate to and draw inspiration from this great saint. And then help us understand from a priest perspective why it's important to develop a life of prayer, an interior life where we come to know and love Jesus even when we're already so busy. And then finally, let's just talk about some practical ways that busy parents can actually, kickstart a life of prayer and kind of weaving their faith in their everyday life. What do you think?
I can't wait. I love Families of Character. I love doing this podcast with you, Jordan. I've been looking forward to this. So thanks for having me back, and let's do something great for God here.
Let's do it. Let's do it. Why did you write this book, Father, about St. Paul the Apostle? Why St. Paul?
Because I'm trying to constantly solve a problem, and that is that the faith for most people is beautiful and fantastic and not directly integrated in their life. So we put it in a box. It's called Sunday church, Christmas Eve services, maybe a confession when you need it. And we live the rest of our lives without it. And I'm frustrated with that. I don't like that. I don't think that's the way it should be. And I'm thinking through how do we message this differently so that people can, instead of us taking you into the faith, how do we bring the faith into you?
Mm,
And St. Paul is perfect for that, because in St. Paul's life, he embodied a Christian message that became the source of a culture. So he was able to inject Christianity and the power of the resurrection directly into the lives of the Christians. And so I started studying him, trying to understand. And one of the things that I saw that was so important, and this is the point I want to bring to everybody, is that your problems are the starting point. Your problems are starting point. So your mission is the purpose. And your mission is to raise kids. And it's to
yes.
raise kids and stay married. Okay, that's your mission. So as a priest, if I'm like, well, that's on the side, and your mission is that you should be doing a daily holy hour, just like the nuns, we'll make a nun out of you, I'm not being respectful. Because to raise a child, you have to think of all of the forms of development of a child, their emotional development, their academic development, their social development at every moment of every day. That's why God made mothers. I mean,
Mm,
some fathers can do it because some fathers are awesome, but most fathers cannot do motherhood. But mothers can. And what does that mean? Like, you literally live hour by hour, and somehow or other, God made you guys happy with this. Like, again, for me, I'm like, God bless you, because this would be my death. I would not be able to do this. But hour by hour, how each one's doing as they evolve through each day, hour and day and year of their life, you're watching this incredible thing happen as God, in the circumstances of every person's daily thing, raises a human being to perfection out of it. Okay, that requires so many other things from you that is not directly spiritual, and that's okay.
mm.
First step is for you to say, God's equipped me for this labor called labor.
Yes. Yes.
And not
Amen.
just moms, but dads too. And and then ups and downs of your spouses, and it's like, it's just, you can feel guilty. And we priests are really good at being like, we wish you were like us. Come to read spiritual reading and do these things. And like, I want to start off by saying no, and that's why I wrote this on St. Paul, because St. Paul is all about how God brings the faith, gives you grace so that you can do your mission in the world. His focus on evangelization makes him the perfect saint to talk about the laity, because a layperson's very life is supposed to be evangelization in and through what they do every day. Second reason is that St. Paul had a job. St. Paul had to work with his own hands. So he had no money, he had to go to work every day. He was a priest, but he was without a collar. Okay. So I thought that him coaching us today would be just so powerful, because our Christian lay people need a saint who's real, who's behind them, and who doesn't require them to lose focus of their mission so that they can become saints. You need to become a saint in your mission. A
Mm.
priest is supposed to be behind you. You are supposed to be fighting for Jesus in the world. And the priest is behind you, supporting you, not pulling you out of the battle, saying you should have been a priest like me, then you'd be the perfect Christian. No. And that's how it works.
Yes. Thank you for giving us permission to let go of the guilt of not doing all the things at church or all the holy hours of prayer or I think, was it in this book that you wrote about Mother Teresa and how, maybe I read it somewhere else, but just like sometimes as women, we look to these
Oh,
beautiful women that have gone before us and we're like, but Mother Teresa, she took care of all these very ill, sick, disabled,
yeah.
hurting people in the streets, and I'm only raising 3 kids. And it's like, but Mother Teresa was not called to be
Oh,
a mother to, through marriage.
yeah. And you know what else? St. Paul had that opportunity as well because he was the gritty throwaway apostle. He even says that. The other ones all had their call and they had their time with Jesus. I didn't even have time with Jesus. He's like, I was called as one cast away. And yet he says, I've worked harder than the rest of them. He actually writes this down. And I've been in prison more often. I've been beaten more often than they have. But that proves what? It proves that, like St. Paul, like you're constantly moving. He moved 47 communities are written about in the New Testament in 30 years. That means he went to a different city more than once every year. For 30 years, he spent between 6 and 10 years in prison. Try being a monk in prison. Like, think about what he had to do. Then he walked 10,000 miles in 30 years. That's 3,000 miles a year if you want to do the math. Well, it's 300 miles a year if you want to do the math. That's an incredible amount of journeying every single year, nonstop, on boats. So I love him for that because, I mean, he was not a monk. He was speaking different languages. He had to figure out hotels. He had to take care of Timothy, take care of Titus, take care of Luke, take care of every community. He writes about this. He's like, I'm like a mother. He's like to these communities. And then his heart is ripped out by this, disappointed by this. And in that mess, I found an inspiration. I'm like, this is what parents need to look to. Because the other ones, imagine how Paul could have looked around. He's like, well, there's Peter. Peter's having a great time. He's with, in Jerusalem, the big city. And there goes this guy, and there goes that guy. And for him to be able to say, none of you have worked as hard as I have worked, means that his hair was on fire.
Yes, his hair was on fire, like many of us mothers and fathers.
And so when he then does coaching, right, you mothers and fathers can listen to that and be like, how did he do it?
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted to put down in that book. I want to say, this is how he did it, And the game, and I'll get into this. I know you got all kinds of questions, Jordan. I go on. So
I want you to.
the game, guys, is inside. You cannot change bath time and the fact that your little one is dyslexia, you didn't count on that, and that your older one's got a personality that clashes with your husband. Oh, that's great. You didn't count on that. And so now you got this thing that's like taking up tons of time. You can't change that. What you have to change is on the inside game. You saying, why is that a problem for me? Like, oh, because I think I'm supposed to be this, or my family should be this. There's 3 words that you don't find in the Bible. Would've, could've, and should've. It's really amazing. Doesn't exist. Why doesn't it exist? Because it's not the language of God. I actually think it's the language of the devil. Because what that does is it messes up your inner game. You're like, what can I? St. Paul teaches us. So what I do in the book and what I'm doing right now in your life is by saying, like, all that you think is so bad, Paul has gone through. And Paul teaches that it's the moment in the weakness that God's going to be glorified the most. What you have to do is let go of the thought that you're supposed to be the perfect family. And that you're supposed to be the perfect wife, and you're supposed to be the perfect. What does that mean? Forget about that. If your name isn't perfect, then you're never going to be.
That's right.
Your name's Bill, and it's Sally. All right, so I have to be Bill. I have to be Sally, which means God's equipped us for this, which is what am I supposed to be doing? Glorifying Him. All right, so how do I do that? I take the curveballs that life throws me, and I knock them out of the ballpark.
Yes.
That's the inner game.
Yes. Okay, would've, should've, and could've never been in the Bible. Never, no. Those are the words of the enemy.
Could you imagine if God was up in heaven? This is what we imagine. I'm going to tell you what you're imagining, and it's false. But not you, or ever. Listen, we all do this. We're all up. God's up there in heaven going like, oh my gosh. Whenever you make God say, oh my gosh, you know it's wrong. He's like, oh my gosh, don't do it. Don't do it. And then you're like, I did it. I got mad at my 6-year-old and I told them they were fat, you know. And so then you're like, now God's up in heaven, like, there's nothing I can do. And he turns to the Blessed Mother, and the Blessed Mother's like, what did she do? She called her fat. She called her 6-year-old fat. And then Blessed Mother's like, what are we going to do, God? Our plan was totally different. And this lady screwed it up. And God's like, I don't even know. It's out of control. The disaster. Like, just give up because I can't help this person. Like, that's what we think. And then we're like, oh, stop for a second. The Catholic doctrine is called providence. The Catholic doctrine of providence means this: God knew before you were even born what you would say to your 6-year-old. He knew before you were even born all the ways you would screw up, and he knows all the ways you're going to screw up because you cannot screw up his plan. His plan might be that, well, I've allowed you to make a harder life for yourself and you've made a way that's going to cause more suffering. But I knew that, and I meet you at every second with love and all the grace that you need, that if you embrace me in this moment, I can lead you forward. And that's why he doesn't let us undo the past. Paul had a terrible past, Jordan. If there's one guy who wants to get rid of his past, it's Paul. You know this because 3 different times he goes to confession as he's writing. So he's haunted over the years in his writings 3 different times. I did these terrible things. It was on his mind all the time. Okay. He gives a speech. And he's like, I'm a bad sinner. And it's like, Paul, let it go. He's like, I can't. Why doesn't God let us undo our pasts? And I think it's because he wants us to realize we don't have to. But actually, in our providence, he knew everything and he's got it figured out. You cannot screw up his plan. So what's our point? Our point is, on the one hand, therefore, to do our very best, to be humble, and to get up every day and to keep doing our best. But better than one's best, no one can do. And so there, I then say this little phrase, and you can write this down, take it to the bank. I love this. I put my past in God's mercy, my present in his love, and my future in his providence. Past to his mercy, present to his love, future is providence, and I don't judge myself again. I let it go. Because God needs you guys to lead and to be on the top of your game. And that's what St. Paul teaches. That's why I wrote the book.
So good. So good. And you're saying, do not judge yourselves. Like, move on. You need to keep moving from town to town, from ball game to ball game.
You guys know, if you look at the number of times Paul failed, imagine if Paul judged himself. Like, I shouldn't have said that in Philippi when they then caned me, dragged me through the city square, and kicked me out of the town. So where does he go after that? He goes to Thessaloniki. Guess what happens in Thessaloniki? Oops, he gets people jealous. Don't you think he'd been, oh no, I'm such an idiot. So a mob is formed at Thessaloniki, and they drive him to Berea. He goes to Berea, does the same thing in Berea they did in Thessaloniki. Another mob is formed in Berea, and they kick him out of Berea. And Paul's just like, okay, because he actually has this great line in 1 Corinthians 15 that you can write this down and put it on the refrigerator. I am what I am by the grace of God. And I love that. That's a man who, of course, you judge yourself in the sense, you're like, you're aware, but you don't condemn yourself. Romans 6, the same St. Paul. There is no condemnation now for those who are in Christ Jesus. So stop condemning yourselves, you guys. And that little condemnation that's in your mind all the time saying, like, I should be praying more. I should be this more. I should be. Well, stop that for a second and be like, my mission was to get my wife to heaven and to raise these kids. And I do that with my spirituality. But the secret is to put your spirituality as your power pack, and you keep your eyes forward and your hands busy on what you got to do. So the Lord gives us that on Sundays. And then we're going to talk about these practical things. I'm going to start already by throwing this out there. You guys want to do one thing. Put the day of the Lord in its place of honor. Now, you don't have to go crazy because you're like, well, that's too much. All right, if it's too much, but start with something and let it grow. Start with something. Start with Sunday morning. Do it like this. No appointments or shopping or anything until noon. Start with that. So we will wake up. We will do mass. Then what do? I guess we have an hour and a half. Oh no. You make BLTs for the kids. And they're going to remember that time that dad always made those BLTs. You put on some classical music. Why don't you do some pipe and drums from the Scottish marching bands? Make your kids a memory. They're like, Dad made us not be on screens. He made us listen to that goofy dad music. They love dad music, right? And then
Yes.
as they're listening to pipe and drums, you're making them BLTs. And it was all because you gave them that time, nothing till noon. That that is suddenly like that one day, those 1/4 set of hours will equip you spiritually for the whole week. Now, there's more to it than that. I'm just trying to make it really easy for you. But the
Yes.
principle is what I want to get. And that is that my mission is my family. My mission is my kids, my wife, my spouse. Therefore, Jesus wants me to be going on date nights and getting my hair done. And Jesus wants me to be visiting with my stupid hair lady that does my hair and tipping her. And all these things that you think are secular and therefore bad are secular and therefore good because you're infusing them with God's love. Let the priest be the priest. Now, again, some of you are extremely well motivated and you want to go crazy and pray tons. Go for it. If you can, pray all you can. My message is for those who are in the battle right now and who then feel guilty because they compare themselves to the others who are usually over 70.
Right, totally. There's never an apples to apples comparison. So why do we do it? It's craziness. But you're right. It's the work of the enemy, and we have to recognize when that hamster gets on the wheel and kick him off and be like, "Not today, Satan." No, we've got
Amen.
our faith-filled power pack strapped on our back here, and we are going eyes forward and execute, right? Like our mission is our family. I love how you say that because it reminds us with the buzz and the craziness of the world and all the things we can be doing, we have to remember to prioritize one, our marriage, and two, our kids, and that this is our vocation. We have been called to marriage and family life, and that's got to be our
And
target.
that means barbecues and barbecue grill cleaning and propane tank buying and then all of that. And that takes up your time, you guys. Be realistic about that, but also be realistic that it's your mission field. So when you're at the store renting the propane tank, smile at the person behind, you're on call and on duty there. And that's where your spirituality comes in because then it feeds that. It gives you the energy and the knowledge to be his instrument there. And that's how it's supposed to work.
Yes. And prioritizing our faith as a busy parent, like you said, it might mean when you've got four kids hanging off the cart at Costco that, and you're swinging around getting all the samples, that you smile at the people that are looking at you nuts for bringing your kids in there and just going, like, isn't this fun? This is a crazy
Yeah.
life, but this is ours, that you are joyful about the fact that you have brought life into the world and that you're doing this thing, right? This family living thing.
Jordan, I think you're absolutely right. And I want to emphasize kind of like swing to the other side there because on the same way as I was saying, look, you got to be into the secular world and go for it, it will consume you unless you prioritize your faith. So if you are going into, and if you're going in underwater, right, and you don't have a scuba thing, you will last 2 minutes and then you will die.
Yes.
In the same way, if you're going into parenthood and the gym classes and the ballet school and you're driving around like an Uber driver from one place to the next, and you don't have a rosary, you don't have a book on tape. By the way, my book is on audiobooks. So
Yes.
if people are like, I got 8 books already, I just laugh. I'm like, this one's not even on your shelf. Just get it on audiobooks and download it. But if you don't have those things going for you, well, the secular world will dominate you because it's demanding. It's almost just like another child. Feed me, feed me, feed me, feed me. And so prioritizing your faith means that it is number one, not in terms of time, but in terms of importance.
Mm.
But you absolutely have to. As a priest, do you know that I could fill up every single second of every single day with just doing priestly ministry? And you know what would happen if I did that? I would stop being a priest. It's as
Yes.
simple as that.
Recipe for burnout.
Well, if you're a Christian mother, you can fill up your day with just being a mother. But if you don't put in Christ, then you won't be a Christian mother. You will fail. You'll just be a mom, and you'll be someone else's mom instead of Jesus's mom. So, prioritizing your faith, remember this though, it's the importance, meaning it could be not the size. It can be small, but you must not overlook it. When you put those together, now you become, it's the recipe for happiness.
Dynamite. That's where true joy comes, at the intersection of your faith and your vocation, your call
Yeah.
to motherhood or fatherhood and this married life, right? So good. And I appreciate you saying that, like, the priority should be God, your relationship with God, and your fundamental moral beliefs. Like, that should be what I said
Oh,
the word should. I
okay.
caught
That's
myself.
okay.
That is where we draw strength from, and that is just the well that we go to make decisions
Oh,
about whether the 9-year-old gets Snapchat, or
yeah.
whether we support our 11-year-old in having a girlfriend, right? Like,
Yeah.
we have to have a foundation of faith, but the amount of time, just because it's priority one, doesn't mean that the amount of time we spend at the church or in prayer or with the rosary in our hand is greater than the time we spend with our spouse or our kids. It's got to be the foundation from what.
And I want to just say, I mean, every couple's different. There might be some couples listening that are like, "What? We do so much prayer and it's so great." Well, good for you. I'm just saying, like, you should always do as much as you can. You should always do as much as, but when you can't, or if your dynamic is not that way, it's also possible to do this. Okay, so
Yes.
each couple's got to take what I'm saying and then apply it in their circumstances, and those circumstances are always going to be different. So I
Yes.
definitely want to concur with what you're saying there, because it's important. Because at the same time, if you don't do it and you just say, well, we're going to love God at Mass on Sundays, I'm going to warn you that eventually you won't even be going to Mass on Sundays. Because what you've done is you've made your faith life so irrelevant. You need every single day to find a way to incarnate the fact that you are living that day for God. Just like, and I'm a big fan of this, Jordan, and maybe I'm the only one, maybe I'm even inappropriate as a priest. I think that a husband and wife should kiss each other once a day.
Yes.
And I tell the husbands, when you come home from work, first thing you should do is kissing your wife. And why? If you work, first thing you should be doing, look for each other. Why? Because it's the reason why you're living that day. It puts you right there. It's like we're celebrating something that's bigger than the tasks and the stresses. It's called love. And I'm going to
Yes.
show you that love once a day in a way that's over and beyond a task list. So you put that on your task list. I must kiss my wife and tell her I'm going to knock this day out of the ballpark. Okay, in the same way that you do that, once a day, you need to kiss your God. So what does that mean? It means adore your God. There's a time in every day where you're like, in the Christian tradition, we look at the day as a lifetime. You're born when you wake up, you go through the strengths, your strength starts to fade, and then you remit yourself in total surrender as you sleep again. That's
Mm.
always been how the Christians have seen their day, as a little microcosm of a life. Right? Well, if that's the case, then you only live for today, which means today I must honor my God. So, of course, you can go to daily mass, go to daily mass. Absolutely. If you can do your rosary, do your rosary. Should you? You should try. Yeah, absolutely. But you can also make it as simple as having a crucifix right next to your light switch in your bedroom. And before you leave that bedroom every morning, you kiss the cross. I think it's the neatest thing. People, we're not physical enough, guys. And so then we're like, kiss the cross. If
Yes.
you kiss a crucifix once a day, can you imagine what that would do for your heart?
Mm.
And then I'm so sorry about this. And then before you know it, you're praying. Okay, great. But you haven't even left the door yet. So if the kids come in and wake you up and they're like, make me breakfast, and they pull you into the kitchen, you stop, you go, guys, mommy hasn't kissed her Jesus yet. And you lean in there and you kiss that Jesus and you say, this is all for you. That's prioritizing your faith.
Yes.
It's that little thing, but it'll keep everything in line.
Yes, I have this saying I used to use when I homeschooled. Hashtag count it. Like that counts. Kissing your cross. It may take 5 seconds, but it orients your mind to your whole
Oh, yeah.
purpose.
Your whole purpose. Kiss your husband, kiss your Jesus every day. Boom,
I
boom, boom.
love that, Father. And I have to thank you just publicly on the air for something that you suggested at a date night event that I attended about a year ago. So you said, gentlemen, are you praying with your wives? And they were kind of like,
Of course
oh yeah,
not.
of course we are. Yeah, we say prayers with our kids at night or whatever. Like, no, no. Are you praying with your wife each day, just the two of you? Like you gave just a really simple idea, planted the seed for guys to just find your wife before you leave for work that day, and just hold her hands, close your eyes, and pray for her in some
Both,
simple way.
both hands.
Yes.
Why? Because you can. I mean,
Yes.
and then you say the Our Father.
Yes.
And the husband needs to start it. And so, wives, let him. All he has to say is 2 words: Our Father. She'll finish the rest.
That's right.
Guaranteed. I
I
say this all
remember
the
you
time in these
saying that.
groups. They jump in and they're like, I don't know. But you don't add a Hail Mary. You don't do it in Latin. You don't even do the sign of the cross. You can go for it, but you don't have to. What's important is that the two of you are there. And the reason you say the Our Father is for your family, not for each other. Because then when you're fighting, you're like, I could never. And how could you pray for me? All this stuff. Hey, we're doing this for the family. And I trust it to the Father because it's the way God structured the thing. And it gives the man a chance to say, I am the husband and the father who has a responsibility here.
Mm.
And like I say, it's only you need to do is 2 words, but it's so important that we do it, everyone. And you get to do this. Remember, this is a privilege. This is not even something where you're supposed to be like, another thing you have to do. You get to pray with your spouse.
And
Don't give it up.
invite God into your relationship each day.
Huge,
Wow.
huge.
It's
And
huge.
it's easy. I timed it. It takes 22 seconds, Jordan. That's all it takes. 22 seconds.
Well, we have expanded on that over here at the Langdon household. So what Josh does is he finds me before he leaves in the morning. I'll stand up wherever I am and we hold hands, and he prays for something specific for me that he knows I'm going through that day, like that's coming up, or something that he's heard me probably complain about the day before that's going to be hard, or that's just a little bit of suffering that I'm going through. And so he'll just pray aloud about that thing and ask God to just help Jordan today as she navigates this and this. And I have never ever felt so pursued by my husband in my lifetime. We've been married 20 years, and you think, "Oh, he's going to take me to beautiful restaurants and we're going to go on these amazing dates and he's going to buy me flowers, or maybe it's going to be that one trip that he surprises me with." Praying for your wife is bigger and better than all of that, gentlemen. So if you're listening,
Men need to hear that, Jordan. So you're saying
seriously,
that the wife actually wants that.
yes, yes. And I tell women, because at first I was like, oh, aren't you going to say such and such? And it's like, zip it, ladies. Don't say a word. Just receive your husband's prayer for you. Receive it, because we don't do that enough. We're always adding to everything or criticizing the way somebody does something, or can you just add this? And it's like, no, just whatever your husband says for you, consider it a gift and praise him for doing it so he keeps it up.
Yeah.
It's the best way to feel pursued for a woman. And guys are like, 90 seconds a day is all it takes for you to be that happy? And I'm like, yeah, you might be thinking all kinds of different things about 90 seconds a day, but how about 90 seconds of prayer? It's like you can do it anytime, and it's going to be a huge deposit in the love bank.
Amen. You got it.
Practical way to prioritize your faith.
Yes. And see how simple it was, but it's because it gives you the perspective of this is what it's all for. And that's the danger of being involved in the world, is that you forget what you're even doing it for. And that can happen for a day, 2 days, but if it happens for 2, 3 months, you're now so disoriented that other things fill in those holes. And
Yes.
before you know it, you're living a lifestyle that's not even Christian. And that's why you anchor it. You anchor it. Your Sunday Mass, everyone, is not optional. It's not optional. And I don't care about the soccer team. And I played soccer my whole life. I'm a soccer kid. I never missed Mass once for a soccer thing. And that was back in the day when they still respected it. So that today, Father, we have to. I want you to like, you got it. It's not optional. Which
Yes.
means, well, then Sonny can't play on the travel team because the coach says, then you know what? You're doing him a big favor.
That's
Because
right.
honestly, in all my years, I've met one professional soccer player. One. Do you know how
One.
many millions of soccer? Your kid's not going to make it to the professional soccer level. And even if he did, you probably wouldn't want him to be there.
That's
So, like,
right.
what are you doing? You know, you got to. So, Sundays were the key thing. I started by Sunday morning. Sunday, anything. Sunday rosary with the family. Throw it in there just on Sundays. Let them complain. And mom and dad, or at least we're going to do it. But that's one way. And then in the typical day, I love what you said. And there's other tips like that. But all of it, the perspective here, guys, is you have to prioritize it, but you don't have to spend a huge amount of time on it. Then again, if you can, you can do. I met some people that one thing men do. I think this is a neat thing. Women do it too. I just know only the men that do it. So, but what I've heard men do is they wake up once a week for holy hour, and so they'll go in at 4 in the morning, something hard, because they're like, why should we let little old ladies do the holy hours in the middle of the night? That should be a man thing. And so they're like, therefore, they take the hard hour, 2 a.m., 3 a.m. They love it because it's a sacrifice, sure. And yet it's this time where they're alone with God. And then I've heard their wives be like, I'm just so happy because that's his time with Jesus. And it anchors her and it makes her feel like my husband knows what he's doing. Like he's with Jesus. He's got spirituality, you know? And they'll bring their Bible, they'll bring my book, they'll bring anything they got, and they'll pick their rosary, but like they do it every week. And
Yes.
it becomes this anchor that now, you know what some of them are doing? They're bringing their kids with them because their oldest son wants to be like dad. Now, isn't that amazing? So
That's
their oldest boy is
amazing.
now up at 2 a.m. in the morning. He's with dad at that holy hour in the middle of the night. And that will be something that they'll never forget the rest of their life. And I'll be darned, that boy, when he's grown up, he'll be doing it. And it was all because you, dads, did something simple. And moms, you can do it too, same thing. But like, do it. That's what I'm saying.
Yes. And invite your child along, because if you leave the house at 2 in the morning while they're sleeping and they never have a clue that you're at a chapel praying with God for 1 hour, they don't know that that's something that they can do. They don't know that they could access a chapel in the middle of the night somewhere and have a special little conversation with God, right? So,
I used to do it when I was a teenager. I met the Lord when I was 13, and when I was 17, 18, I'd be going to the Adoration Chapel sometimes in the middle of the night because I loved God and I found him there. Don't think your teenagers are too young to start praying. I was going to daily mass my sophomore year, my junior year. As soon as I could drive, I was driving to daily mass and serving mass before I went to the high school. If you got religion in a kid, foster it.
yes,
Don't stifle the religiosity of a teen. It might seem crazy, it might be over the top. Well, temper it, guide it. So it's, but at this, if it's genuine, that's where you want to allow that because Jesus is working in that soul and great things can happen at that.
yes. Makes me think of retreats and camps that they go on with their school, their classmates or youth group and things like that. And it's a beautiful thing for them, for us
John
to
Paul
support.
II said when they asked him when was the first time you thought about being a priest, and he said it was when I wake up in the morning as a teenager and I'd see my dad kneeling in prayer when he woke up. That's when he realized I want to be a priest. Why? Because he saw his dad doing it. We have in the Archdiocese of Denver a summer camp called Annunciation Heights. Bring your kids up there for a weekend, rent a cabin, and be religious.
And
They'll
have
never forget
fun
it.
out in the wilderness. It all happens together. It's not separate, right? It's just
Yeah.
this beautiful blend of nature and God's beauty and some great lessons and all the things together combined. Like I just want to underscore the point that, it's not just, okay, we did our thing. We went to church on Sunday. And so everybody knows how important God is in our lives because every Sunday we go to mass or we go to church or we go to, wherever we're going. But to bring that into your natural everyday life.
That's the beauty of what you get to do as parents. Priests are different. I'm like, come to the silent retreat where we will be totally artificial from the normal world. Leave the world behind. You guys don't do that, which is powerful in its own way. Because you're there when that 12-year-old has to brave the cold water in the lake, and you get to say, this is your coming of age ritual. Whoever can swim across the lake, all that silly stuff. It's not silly. It's actually the truth of that little kid's life and then who's right there? Dad. And who is dad? A Christian man. Who's mom? She's someone who loves Jesus and loves me. And you bring like kneading the faith into the fabric of that human being. That's why it's so beautiful, and it'll happen automatically if you yourselves are anchored.
Yes.
You anchor yourself in the Lord, and then you let it loose, and He will guide you through that whole rest of the way.
Yes, that just makes me think, you can't love what you don't know. And so if you want your kids to know Christ, you want your kids to be Christian, you yourself have to fill yourself with the love of God, and you have to allow yourself to be loved by God. And that means as a busy mom, being okay with getting up 15 minutes before your kids do so that you can read a special devotional that's made for mothers, in silence, or joining a Bible study while you still have little kids and actually asking your husband for permission. We do this in married life. Like, would you mind taking care of the kids on Wednesday mornings so that I can go to this Bible study? This is really important for me. You know what? Husbands, support your wives doing that, and vice versa. Your husband wants to go to, men's retreat. It's going to be a whole weekend, and you can't imagine taking care of the kids that long. Just keep him alive for 3 days. It's going to fill him up so much, and you're going to have this guy come back, and he's going to be changed in some small or big way, and you might not see it at the beginning, but it's worth investing in these types of things as individuals, right? So that we can come to know and love God, and it will just overflow out from us into our kids.
I want to give you another practical tip because you're into practical tips here. Mirrors are powerful things. I was just in a home of a family 3 days ago, and they had stick-it notes with Bible passages, prayers, things like Jesus, I love you, Lord, have mercy, taped to the mirror. They had a big old mirror, way too big. I mean, none of us are that big. So keep your corner for yourself, but the rest, put something so that when you're getting ready, I found myself, there I was washing my hands, and I'm sitting there reading this uplifting Bible passages. And you do that I think how many times you go to the bathroom, and if every single time it was an encounter with God, it's because on those mirrors. And that's such an amazing thing also for like little publicity for the teens, because they can't take it down. Yeah, well, you're putting all kinds of things. God made me beautiful, boom.
Yes.
Thank you, God, for making me beautiful. You put all those things up there. And so now you're both controlling the family environment, but you're also taking a needed respite. Because at the length of time it takes you to wash your hands could be one Hail Mary or one Jesus, I offer you my sufferings. But we need the help. That's why taping prayers to mirrors. I should start a ministry. The taping prayers to mirrors. We should sell this, Jordan. We can make the tapeable prayers and get them on up there for people, because guys, it's the little things. That's what I'm saying. But like, it's the focus, and that's what we need the most.
Yes, and you're talking about habit stacking. Take something you already do every day. You wash your hands, you at least brush your teeth, hopefully once. So put it right by the mirror
Right
where
there.
you're brushing your teeth, right? It's
If
one.
you have those automatic brushes, you're in for 3 or 4 minutes.
That's right.
Someone gave me one of those things, and I'm just like, this is crazy. So now that there, you can put 3 or 4 big old prayers up there, and you go through your routine as you're doing your like automatic toothbrush.
Yes.
What else are you doing during that time? you know.
That's right. That's right. You mentioned also just, having a crucifix or a cross in every room. That is such a visual reminder. And as busy parents, I know that if you don't see it, it's not on your mind because you're going and blowing so fast that it's just you move past things. Also, in the same vein, I had a sign up in our kitchen probably for an entire year, and it said, "What can I do to help?" And then it had these little ideas to just draw to mind for our kids. Hey, how can I help around here? What is it that I can do
Wow.
today? Well, guess what? After about a month, no one saw it. Right? You have to like be creative as parents, and you have to take the sign from its usual place where everybody stared at it for 30 days and now they're desensitized to it, and you have to move it to a different place in the kitchen. Or you
Yeah,
have to change up the color of the sticky note on their bathroom mirror because they're looking right past it again, right? And so eh, but visual reminders, statues of Jesus, crosses, and move them around in the house so somebody goes, has that always been there? And then it kind of brings up a conversation, a natural conversation while you're eating dinner or cooking or, playing a game or whatever. But those visual reminders are practical ways that we can prioritize our faith just by our environment, our home environment where we reside, right?
absolutely.
Count it. Hashtag count it. I love it. Well, this morning I had the privilege of sponsoring a breakfast that Father Nathan put on for men, and it's an awesome thing. You're doing it monthly, is this right?
Yes. It's called
Okay.
Wake Up, Wake Up, It's Time to Lead.
Wake up. It's time to lead. This is a men's breakfast at the crack of dawn. And I heard him myself tell all these men, listen, a super easy way to just start your day in prayer is to just get yourself a prayer book, tear out the page with the
Yep.
prayer on it, and tape it to your bathroom mirror. Okay. So you're hearing this from a priest saying, it's okay. Tear up the prayer book. It's important. You're going to use it. God's going to be all over that idea. He's going to be like,
All of
yes, it's in front of you. Right. But you're on a mission to really help men rise up and lead their families well and be grounded in the faith as they do that.
Well, the other day, so I do a thing every year called the Holy Halftime Show. So during the Super Bowl, I actually do an alternatives. And part of what we did is my team made me watch, I don't know, 6 or 7 Super Bowl halftime show performances. And I was so sad and angry, I couldn't make it. The Madonna performance, I made it through 1 minute and 22 seconds before I could no longer watch. It was horrible. And most of them I didn't make it any further than 3 minutes because so that's an example. So I'm doing my own. You can tune in Super Bowl halftime show. We should do it together if family's a character, Jordan.
That'd be
But
fun.
my point is that like guys, our culture is this is what your kids are going to get unless you do something. It
Yes.
is not possible to sit back after watching that filth, and I didn't even make it. I couldn't. I was so shocked. I was shocked beyond belief with what I saw, and that was Super Bowl halftime show. The whole country's watching. I'm motivated, and I want you to be motivated too. You guys can do this. Whenever you don't lead, you're allowing someone else to lead. And when you make your faith private, you make atheism public. And we just got to start saying, no, I'm going to make Jesus Christ public. And how
That's
do I do that? I do that with me living it. And that, and
yes.
then that connection with my husband and my wife, that goes with the kids. And as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord.
Amen. That's so, so good. What a great way to wrap up this episode. It's just inspiring to go out and glorify God by living our married lives with children, with joy. Folks, your life is not meant just for you. It is a life, well lived to be shared with others, right? And so wherever you go, bring your love of God and your love of your spouse and your family, even in the yucky times and the gnarly, arguments we have and the dark trenches. People can see it, they can accept it, and they can see themselves in what you are showing. So don't be afraid to live your life out loud with your faith as your power pack, right, Father?
Amen.
So good. So good. Well, guys, check out Father Nathan. He has all kinds of cool things going on at the St. John Institute. I know one thing that Josh and I enjoy doing is Thursday mornings, very early. Father Nathan has a Zoom call that you can jump on. And don't worry, you don't have to put your camera on. Matter of fact, he doesn't want you to, because who wants to be seen at 4:30 in the morning? It's such a distraction. But you give the gospel and a little reflection on it, and it's just a beautiful time to connect, like in person, you feel like, with Father Nathan. So if you like what you heard today, Father, how can they get signed up for to get that Zoom link?
Oh, you join our network. So you go to our website, stjohninstitute.org. That's SAINT, johninstitute.org. And then sign up to be a member. It's free. It's just free membership. And then that gets you in our database. So basically, do whatever you got to do to give us your email, your phone number. And then you should be getting texts from us and an email. And then we give you a link, and then you come on to the call. That's every Thursday at 6:30 in every time zone. So we do it 4 times. We do it at 4:30 Mountain Time, 5:30 Mountain Time, 6:30 Mountain Time, and 7:30 Mountain Time, because that 6:30 a.m. it goes across the country, and you can tune into whatever one you want.
It's awesome. Such a good way to connect with you. And like I said, he hosts leadership retreats and all kinds of things for business people in the local Denver area, and travels to speak and help businesses and factories, and you've got it going on. You're kind of like St. Paul. You're just roaming around, just helping everybody wherever you go, and persevering through your suffering with a smile, Father. So thank you for suffering well and for leading us very well. It's been a pleasure to have you back on our show.
God bless you, and families of character.
Thank you so much. Parents, check out the show notes. We have links to our other episode with Father Nathan so that you can figure out more about kind of practical ways you can influence your kids so that they keep their faith when they leave home. And like I said, be sure to check him out at stjohninstitute.org. Okay, we'll catch you on another episode of the Families of Character show real soon. Take care.